Hi and welcome. It's been a while since I made a video because it's summer and been out in the sun doing gardening and stuff. Also been doing some shopping, so got quite a few things, bargains indeed, on Facebook Marketplace mostly, and this is one of them that we're going to look at now. I did a little poll to see which of 4 things that we should make videos of next, and this was the thing that won. It's like a silver machine, like you used to see quite a few of these around in the early 2000s. I still always think they looked a bit naff back then, but in hindsight maybe they don't look so bad. This one was working when I got it. It was £10. It's got some kind of socket A thing going on inside, so I thought it might make for a cool little project to make a sort of mid-2000s XP gaming rig, so that's what this video is going to be all about. And before I even open this up, there's a couple of things that need to be addressed, cosmetic stuff. So there's a foot that keeps falling off, so I'm going to glue that back in with some hot glue. And the main thing is it's silver, and obviously silver optical drives and silver floppy drives are pretty few and far between. So I seem to have amassed lots of black ones over the years, and I'm going to use a couple of those, pop the plastics off, take them downstairs, give them a clean and give them a little blast with some silver paint, and then we should have a nicely sort of matching uniform looking thing. Okay, we can get the thing open and see what we've got inside. So this is the beginning of what we've come to accept as our standard glass panel cases. It's got a little funky X that you can see through, and it's got one of those fans in the door that kind of attaches by a wire, so it's a bit awkward. Screaming for an LED fan, I think, so we'll have to get one of those, and then we'll get the motherboard out and take a closer look at what we've got. Okay, the motherboard's out the way, so we can get in, put some hot glue on that foot that I was talking about, so it's not wobbly anymore. And then we can get the motherboard cleaned up. It's just got a bit of dust on it, so nothing major. And yeah, it's a Asus A7 N8X Deluxe, so that's a nice board. I've already got one of these that I use in my Athlon Thunderbird build. So yeah, socket, another socket 462, aka socket A. I think it was the longest socket ever that covered a whole range of processors and technology. But yeah, nice to have another one of these in my collection. So the machine came with some memory, so we've got 2 gigabytes of DDR333 PC2700, so that's nice. I think I'll just put that straight back in and live with that. The CPU that came with it is an Athlon XP 2600 Plus, so I'm not sure if that's the one I'm going to use, but nice to have. Just get it all put back together. It's got SATA on this motherboard, so I'm going to use the SATA optical drive and a SATA hard disk. I can get my nicely resprayed drives back into the case and just hook everything up, and hopefully that should be all there is to it. For graphics, we're going to use this. It's an interesting card. It's a Hercules 3D Profit All-in-Wonder 9800 SE. And it's a card that's going to get its own video, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it's an AGP 8x card, so it'll do, and I need to test it out, so that's what we're going to be putting in. So we're not going to be using onboard sound for this build. I think onboard sound was pretty rubbish back then anyway, but we've got this nice little boxed Hercules Game Surround Muse LT, a 4.1 sound card, surround sound card. So I got this ages ago, thinking I could use it for a Windows XP build, but it only supports XP onwards. I think there were some drivers online, but they were pretty flaky, so I ended up never using them. And it's just been sitting there on a shelf, which is a bit of a shame. It's a nice little box card, and it'll be a perfect match for this machine, so at last it's found a permanent home. Things got a bit confusing at this point because I kept on thinking that because it's a 2600 plus processor, it must be 2.6 gigahertz, which is not true. It's a 1.9 gigahertz processor. Stupid naming, but it does want a 333 megahertz frontside bus, and this motherboard only provides 200. So I think I'd either have to flash the BIOS, which I don't really want to do, or find another motherboard that supports 333. There are plenty of 462 motherboard, so I think I'll try and find another board, and I want to run this at full pelt for its frontside bus, which means I'll also probably be able to drop in a faster processor. I did actually try running this underclocked and tried to install Windows XP, but I ran into problems. The blue screen of death. I think this was to do with SATA incompatibility because my drives were quite recent SATA drives, and obviously support was early on this board, so I'm guessing that's what it is. I never really got to the bottom of it. So the next thing I did was I went through my pile of Socket 416 motherboards looking for one that supported 333 MHz frontside bus out of the box, and that was interesting because all of those boards, because the slot was around for so long, they all support different stuff. It was kind of weird that boards with the same sockets, some of them had SATA, some of them had different speed AGP, some of them had different memory types. They all supported different bus speeds, so it was quite a mess of different levels of support. I think at some point I'm going to have to go through them all and get them all up to the latest BIOS at least, so I know what the best chip each one can handle is. I did find one that supported 333 as it was, so that's an ASRock K7S41GX, which should be a nice replacement. It supports 8x AGP and it has 333 MHz bus speed, so we can drop in a faster processor as well. So a motherboard transplant and a processor upgrade. So we've got an Athlon XP 2800 in here now, which I think might be the fastest that runs on the 333 MHz frontside bus. And then we're all ready to start installing Windows. So we went in, partitioned the hard drive, and I'm going to use Windows XP Media Center Edition. Windows XP finally installed correctly and seemed to be running okay, and then I hit another weird problem where the thing would randomly shut down. So I did notice that the inside of the case was feeling quite warm, and checked the temperature and it did seem to be quite high. I think it's like 85 degrees is the max temp for these processors, and it was up there and it wasn't really running under load or anything. So I got a bigger heatsink and also added an extra fan to suck the hot air off the top of the processor, so didn't have any more trouble after that, and it was ticking along in idle at about 40 odd degrees, so all cool. So there I was thinking that everything was up and running now. I should have known better, because I booted from the Windows XP disk CD, that is. I didn't realise that the floppy disk didn't work, so I'd sprayed one that was broken basically. Couldn't find another drive to match the front bezel to, so I had to spray another one, which is a bit tedious. So with the new floppy disk, everything was working now, and just one thing left to do, a little bit more cosmetics. So fresh from Amazon, we've got an LED fan to replace the one that's in the door, so we get some funky lighting coming out through that Perspex panel on the side. So we'll just whip off the old fan, drop in the new one, and then we can put the whole thing together and see how she looks. Wow, look at that. Having said that, I wasn't keen on these silver boxes back in the day. I really do like the look of this. I like the little glow coming through the little Perspex cross, the X box, and yeah, it looks good against the monitor with the silver bezel. I think it does. Somebody who saw this mentioned that it needed a silver mouse and keyboard, which I think it does. I think I might actually have a mouse and keyboard that came with those silver eMachines boxes that you used to get, and that will go very nicely with this, so I'll have to go and have a look and see if I've got that. But yeah, I'm pleased with the way this looks. It looks pretty funky. All that remains now is to get some software on here. So Windows XP did pick up the graphics card and the motherboard chipset, so there's not a lot to do really apart from stick the sound card drivers on, which shouldn't be a big deal. And also I probably will upgrade the graphics driver to, I think it's Catalyst 10.2 was the latest one that supports the 9 series, so upgrade the graphics drivers and then get some games on here. Before I load any games, I thought I'd do a bit of benchmarking on 3D Mark 2003, which is the version that would have been out at around the time that the 9800 was out. So the reason for doing this is just to get a rough ballpark against some of the other figures that I've read about online. Now this 9800 SE was the kind of manufacturers like Hercules and Sapphire's answer to ATI's own 9600 Pro. Though the 9600 Pro, I don't know what, I think it's got 128-bit memory bus, but this has a 256-bit memory bus, so it's the full one off the 9800 series, so it should be slightly faster in that respect, but they all had 4-pixel pipelines. So I think that the 9600 Pro would average somewhere in the region of kind of between 3,000 and 4,000 in 3D Mark with a roughly similar processor, and the 9800, the full-blown 9800 with 8-pixel pipes would have been somewhere up in the 5,000s. So I'm expecting this to be between 3,000 and 4,000 and comparable to the 9600 Pro. And there you go, 3623 3D Mark, so I guess that's kind of ballpark for this card. Right, now for some games. So I picked Unreal Tournament 3. So it's a game I'm not familiar with at all, and the reason why I picked it is because the minimum spec required pushes this machine quite a bit. It asks for a 2 GHz single core processor, though it does take advantage of dual core processors. The minimum spec is for a 2 gig single core processor, and now that I've upgraded my processor to an Athlon XP 2800 Plus, I'm just over 2 GHz, so we meet that criteria. And the minimum graphics requirement is also a Radeon 9600, and we've got a 9800 SE, so we're just a little bit faster than that as well. So it'll be interesting to see how it performs. Unreal Tournament 3 is quite an interesting game as well. So it came out in 2007, I think, and it's called Unreal Tournament 3 because it was the first one to use Unreal Engine 3. And funnily enough, it is very much an online game, which I found when I was playing it, but the servers only closed last year, so it's lasted a good long time. But not only have they just closed the servers, they're just about to open new servers. So they had their own dedicated servers for the game up until last year, but now Epic's moving new servers to its new Epic gaming platform, and they're actually going to release a new version of this called Unreal Tournament 3X, I think it's called, where it's free to play online, so that's cool. I think I'll be trying that out when it comes out later this year, I think it is, so that'd be a nice thing to get into, and it's nice to be able to have a quick look at the original and play the sort of offline stuff a little bit as well. One of the other things I really like about this game is the music. The music is it's very similar to the music in the original Unreal Tournament, so yeah, I felt right at home as soon as I turned it on. Yeah, it's a shame now that the servers are closed, it's very much an online game, so you can't play the campaign because you have to be logged in to the game server to do that, and that just leaves the kind of sudden death quick fix games that you can play against bots. So probably really the co-op ones again aren't really worth playing like that, which only really leaves 2 modes, the deathmatch kind of modes, the team deathmatch and the one-on-one. So I'll give both of those a go. To begin with, I've just left all of the graphics settings at minimum, and I've set it to 1024 by 768, and we'll see how that goes. Yeah, 1024 by 768. I mean, it was definitely playable, but there was definitely some juddering going on there. You would kind of freeze up a little bit and then jump forward. So I think I'll drop the resolution a little bit and give it another go. Yeah, 800 by 600 is a lot better than 1024 by 768. Actually felt reasonably smooth. I think that is totally playable. Obviously not the highest level of detail, but when you're running around getting your ass fragged, who cares? So the other mode I tried was the one-on-one match. Yeah, that was pretty fun and very playable as well. So I guess there was less going on when you're just doing the one-on-one match. So the other thing that I did was I tried to actually benchmark this, and I did it by running a bot match, letting the bots go rampant on each other, and I just ran fraps on that, and that gave very misleading results, because if I'd done that first, that would have told me that the game was unplayable. So I had to drop it right down to 640 by 480, and it was still giving me unplayable frame rates in the bot match, barely getting into the 20s, or never getting into the 20s, I should say, running from single figures into the late teens. And, you know, it doesn't really give a true representation, because playing in-game actually seemed okay. So I don't know what was going on there. I guess that kind of wraps it up for this video. It's been fun making this machine. It's given me a few other things to think about, like getting all of those other boards, BIOSes updated, and possibly upgrading this one. I'll see if this motherboard supports a 400 MHz frontside bus, and if it does, I can maybe put in the 3200 plus as a CPU upgrade. But one thing this machine definitely does need is a better graphics card, so I don't have any faster AGP cards, but I will certainly be looking for one. I think this machine's going to be in regular use and probably become my main XP machine, and I'm going to get back into some XP gaming. So that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it, and I hope you'll join me for the next video. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.